Hello everybody and welcome to day 10, making inferences. So day 10 of reading every day is going to involve inference practice. Making inferences is using what you already know in addition to what you're told. And if you're reading, what you're told will be in the text, in writing. So it involves drawing conclusions, making decisions. This means you need this reading skill to be a better reader. Well, drawing conclusions means working it out for yourself. So to draw conclusions, you need to think about what makes most sense, and you have to use your evidence to make that decision. Let's have a quick look at a chart that shows you that you begin with the words and the information in the book or text if you're reading. Added to that are your thoughts, and that equals inference. What do you think based on evidence from the text and your own reasoning? And today we're going to be using the noun class of the word inference and look at how good is your inference. Well, let's move on to the video and see what inference practice you've got today. Are you ready?
Skills do you need if you're working towards an English exam? Well, on the screen you'll see there that the ladder of inference is very important, because inference is a reading skill that you're going to need. Let's have a look at how I interpret that. So to begin with, first, number one, you need evidence. That might be facts, that might be opinion, because you're listening to something or reading something or looking at a piece of writing and deciding, what do I know from that writing? Secondly, you'll have your own knowledge. They may be your facts, they may be your ideas, but you're going to add that together with your reasons for why you think something. And when you have all that together, we use the word assumptions, decisions or ideas or things you might say or believe because of your own knowledge and the experience about the situation that you're looking at. So adding it all together, 1, 2, 3, 4 is your answer or your conclusion or your belief, or the reading word inference. So if you infer, that's your verb. If you infer, then you are working at the higher levels of reading. Well done. So let's see how that works in practice. Well, this is Read Every Day, day 10 actually, and it says day 9. So that bit is wrong. And that leads us to remember that you can't always believe everything that you read. You have to infer, you have to decide, what does that mean? And when I add it all together, does it all make sense? But what inference you can make is the practice we're going to do in this video. Let's see how good your inference skills are. So what inference can you make? Jane sighed when her dog dropped the dog lead at her feet. So why do you think Jane sighed? Well, to begin with, we need evidence, and our evidence is the dog lead and Jane's feet. And our own understanding of the situation is, if you have a dog and the dog drops the lead at your feet, usually they're expecting you to take them for a walk. So what can you infer about Jane? Perhaps she was tired, perhaps she couldn't be bothered, perhaps she didn't want to take the dog for a walk. So what inference can you make here? Jane looked horrified when the carol singer began to sing. So why do you think she looked horrified. It doesn't tell you in that sentence. It doesn't tell you in the text. So you've got to work that out by evidence, which is going to be, you know that she was horrified, and you need to know that horrified means shocked in a bad way. So that's not going to be a good reason. And you know that it was a carol singer, so you add all that together with your own knowledge. And if you know that carol singers come around at Christmas time and that they're not trained singers, it might lead you to think, well, perhaps they weren't very good at singing. And if you have experience of carol singers, then you might know that sometimes it's what we call caterwauling, which is really awful sound that is not the same as singing a song. And that might be your inference, because the carol singers weren't very good. So what inference can you make when you have this sentence, there was confetti all over the church car park? So again, that question, why do you think there was confetti all over the car park? Well, it doesn't tell you, does it? So you've got to work out the evidence, which is you've got some confetti. You need to know what confetti is, and that there is a church car park. And then you add that with your own knowledge of weddings at a church and actually where people throw confetti, and you might say, well, it's possibly because a wedding took place at the church, and that's your inference. So what inference can you make when you have the sentence, all the cars stopped on the motorway? Why do you think all the cars stopped on the motorway? Well, your evidence is that the cars have all stopped, and you can see that in the picture. And you know that the cars were on a motorway. So your own knowledge is about what do you know about motorways and about driving on the motorway, and the expectation of cars moving on a motorway. So using all that together, probably infer that there was an accident or some roadworks or something that made the cars stop. So using your own knowledge, you might say, I think the cars all stopped on the motorway because there was probably an accident or there was something blocking their way. And that's your inference. So what about results? Liz smiled when she saw the exam results. Why did Liz smile? So why do you think she smiled? Could be anyone who smiled at the exam results. Let's have a look at the evidence. Well, we know that the person smiled, and we also know that there were exam results. And usually when you get your exam results, if it's bad, you don't go, hey, look at my exam results. So you know that adding your own knowledge to getting results, you'd smile if you passed. So that could be your inference, that Liz passed. So read the following and answer the question. Are you ready? Jim was tired and very hot. He was glad to arrive home and have a shower. So your task is, which is the best inference to make? And remembering with our adjectives, and when we're looking at neutral, comparative, superlative, best is the superlative, so you've got to choose from more than two options. Let's have a look at your options. Jim had been to school. Jim had been in the gym. Or Jim was planning to do his homework. Which would you choose? Well, I would look at the key words, tired and hot, and I think the fact that he had a shower was important to that, so I'd choose he'd been in the gym. So again, a question and some answers. Which is the best inference to make? Michael's throat felt sore. His nose kept running and his eyes were watering. Michael had not slept all night. Michael had a cold. Michael was planning to go out for dinner. Don't think he'd be planning to go out for dinner if he felt like that. It's not to do with him not sleeping, so I'm going to go for he had a cold. So my inference would be he had a cold. Again, which is the best inference to make? So this means you could make any inference. You're inferring, you're making that decision of what you think it means. Jane was in Cornwall. She packed her swim bag because she was heading for the beach. Then she looked outside. She was disappointed. Why was she disappointed? So the sun shone in her eyes. Could she be disappointed because of the sun? The beach had disappeared. Is that likely to have happened? It was raining. Oh, I'm going to infer that it was raining because I think that would be very disappointing if you were going to the beach. Jane and John bought their tickets whilst Julie and Jim queued up for some popcorn. Again, which is the best inference to make? Not which is the inference, which is the best. The tickets were cheap. Julie and Jim hadn't eaten all day. They were all going to watch a film in the cinema. Tickets might have been cheap and they might not have eaten all day, but I think the best inference is that they were all going to watch a film in the cinema because you've got that evidence of tickets and popcorn.
And that's all from the video. Excuse me. So remember to use the blue link in the description below. Excuse me. So remember to use the blue link in the description below to do inference games, and I will see you in the video for tomorrow, day 11, and I hope by then my throat is a little bit better. Bye now.